Hi, I'm Janet. After years of trying to figure out the film industry, making some gains, only to see them dwindling away, I finally got my shit together and I made $85,000 my first year in the film industry in Los Angeles. Creating a career in film does not need to be a struggle. You can start in your city. I want to teach you my process and teach you how to do it. You'll see that you really can live that extraordinary film lifestyle that only the film industry can provide. Let's go.
Hello, how's it going? People of the internet. I'm going to talk about some of the firsts that I've experienced working in the film industry for 2 years now. I want to start with the first time I actually got a film job. The first time I actually worked on set was because I made a decision that I wanted to work in the film industry. And that's an important key to tune into and to understand, is that once you make a decision, then the doors start to open up. That's the way it works. Like when you make a decision, all of a sudden your mind starts working to get you there and opportunities come to you. So I made a decision to work in the film industry, and I'm talking to my best friend. I remember I was going to go visit him in Oklahoma City. And he had a job working this news event / music event. We were filming these bands play for a news station. And it was cool. He needed an audio engineer, an audio assistant. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. Like, I want to help out. Let's go do this. And it was cool. That was my first time working on a film set. Away from Los Angeles, outside of California. We were in Oklahoma City. So that's something. So that, anyways, the main takeaway from that is just realizing that when you make a decision to make this happen, then that will open up opportunity in itself. Another first is my first short film. It's interesting because looking back at this, the first time I worked on a short film, I see a lot of things that I messed up and that I could have done better. I could have done differently. And that just shows you that by doing something for so long, like I've been in the industry now for 2 years, I can look back at that experience with new experience, and I can see how to improve on that job. And it's also important to realize that along the way, we're going to be making mistakes. Along the way, we're going to be learning, and that's okay. Like, that's the point. That's why we do things the way we do, is so that we can build the experience and we can learn and grow. So that was my first short film. It was a horror film. It was also my first time like working with something that's narrative, working with like a lot of like lights and cameras and like fake blood, and it was cool to be a part of that. Now my first reality show, it was in Santa Monica. And that first reality show actually came from working that first short film. I made a connection on the short film that hired me for the reality show. And it was like a pilot that they were going to pitch to Netflix. And that is when I started to realize like, oh, okay, like I'm actually doing the right things. And like, I know this can sound arrogant, but I'm saying it because I want you to understand where we're coming from in Friends and Film. I walked on set and I stood apart from all the other production assistants that have been doing this longer than I have. Okay, this isn't my first TV show that I worked. This is the first reality show that I worked. And by doing what Janet taught me, by using the Friends and Film methods, and by cultivating the get it factor, where you just get it, where you're one of the good ones, this is how we generate a career. Because after a few hours working into that shoot, I became friends with this other PA who is also a coordinator on other reality shows. And so she comes up to me, she's like, hey, like, you're an amazing PA. I want to put you on my list because we have this show coming up and I would love for you to be on my team. Okay, this is how we build that self-generating career. And we're making connections this way. And we're getting paid. We're getting paid to learn. And the way we stand out is by going like above and beyond and doing it with a smile. And it feels good. It builds your energy. Like, I remember I was taking out the trash with a smile. And like, think about it. If you were going to hire someone for these entry level jobs, would you hire somebody that takes out the trash with a smile, or would you hire somebody that hopes someone else is going to do it? Do you see what I mean? These are the shifts that we do because we know that the way we roll, the way we do this, the way we work is what's going to generate even more work. Okay, this one's cool. My first check getting paid over $1,200 it came from my first commercial. And that was a Microsoft commercial. I worked like 3 days for a Microsoft commercial and made $1,200. That was also my first time working with Joe, Janet's husband. And I remember the day that I told Janet that I was gonna work for Microsoft. We were chilling here in this room, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I got this Microsoft commercial this weekend. She stops, she yells across the house. She's like, Joe, Omar's working the Microsoft show with you. And then it was cool. And then, by the way, I got this job because of what Janet taught me, not because she gave it to me, not because Joe gave it to me. It was because it's like Janet taught me how to swim. She didn't give me a floaty. And that's what we do at Friends in Film. We teach you how to fish. We're not giving you fish. And that's way more valuable. Like, that's how you build the foundation for a successful career and actually build the career on top of the foundation. And that was fun. That was also my biggest set, was that Microsoft commercial. Well, at that time, that was the biggest film set that I worked on, like probably 100 people. And that was also my first time seeing firsthand what how high level people work. Specifically the art department. That's where I gravitated towards. I saw them and I was like, oh dang, like that looks fun. Like I want to do that. And I went over there and I made friends, and I'm planting seeds, building these friends in film, creating these connections so that I can work in that higher level position later on in my career. So my first Netflix show, I remember when I got the text asking my availability for Netflix. Up until that point, I knew that I was doing the right things, and that I also knew that it was going to happen eventually, that eventually a Netflix job was going to come. And then when it happened, I was like, oh dang, like I remember it's like, oh, it's happening. It's right here in front of my face. Like, it was cool. And that was the longest show that I've worked on, which is 2.5 weeks. And I remember the rate was $210 for 12. And on that shoot, on the Netflix shoot, the AC and the sound person really took me under their wing and were teaching me. And so this is what when we talk about like getting paid to go to film school, like getting paid to learn on set, this is what happened. I was getting paid $210 a day, learning from these professionals that have been doing their craft for years, doing camera for years, doing sound for years. And they're schooling me, they're teaching me about the industry, and they're showing me like how to be the best I can be. And these relationships that we build are very intentional. This is how we make friends in film, is by doing what Janet teaches you. And by doing a good job and being genuinely interested in getting better, the people around you see that, and they're so happy to help you. They're so happy to help you build your career. So my first Netflix job led to my first MTV job. On the Netflix job, I made a good impression on the executive producer. And when that Netflix job wrapped, the producer referred me to the MTV gig, which was half music, half interview with Omar Apollo, the musician. And I remember like it was so cool, like seeing this empty warehouse, and just shaping it and turning it into a set, like putting the lights in and just seeing the mood it was creating. I was like, oh wow, like, this is cool, like being a part of that TV magic. And then I remember one of my jobs was mopping the floor with water so that the light would hit it in a cool way and create this cool effect. And then the producer and the director are talking like, oh, like it's still missing something. Like they're playing the song and trying to coordinate the lights with the song. And I remember the producer saying like, oh, like when it goes boom, 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 the lights need to do this. They need to flash like boom, boom, boom. And then I saw them watching him program it, and then seeing it with the music. I was like, oh wow, like this is so creative. Like this is why he's an MTV producer, is because he creates this art and he really showcases the music. It was incredible to watch. Also on that shoot, that's another example, on the MTV shoot, after like a couple hours of working, I really impressed that executive producer, the MTV producer. And I remember he pulls out his phone. He's like, hey, what's your number? I'm working on a commercial next month and I want you on my team. So this is how we build this self-generating career. Like you don't have to worry about not having work. By doing these things that Janet teaches us, we are safe and we're creating that steady income. We're creating the flow of work and putting ourselves in the position to create opportunities. You know, people are asking me for work. They make us in demand. Janet makes us in demand for the industry. Now, my first travel job was amazing. It was at a resort in Palm Springs. Like, imagine getting paid to go to work at a resort in Palm Springs. That's the film industry for you. That's what the film industry does. And I remember the film crew, they were from Chicago. And so they flew into Los Angeles and they hired me because they wanted a local production assistant. And that was like my first time where everything felt peer to peer, because it was a small crew. It was like 5 people. And they were just a couple years older than me, but they were also years ahead of working in the industry. They were film professionals. And it just felt cool to be able to like hang out with them and to talk to them like a peer, like, oh, like this is what we do. We're just in the industry. Like it wasn't before, up until that point, it was like, oh, like I'm learning, like I'm still new, like I'm still trying to figure everything out. And then fast forward to that first travel job, that first time getting put up in a resort. It was like, oh, we're all friends, we're all peers. This is just what we do. This is our life. And you know, like the questions that we have, the way that we speak changes. Like I remember asking the DP, like, oh, how long have you been working for Discovery? Like he does travel jobs for Discovery. And we're like chilling in a jacuzzi, like after work. We're like drinking beer. We're just hanging out, having fun at this beautiful resort in Palm Springs. And like I asked him, like, oh, how long have you been working for Discovery? So like a year before that, who would I have asked that to? who would I, you know what I mean? Like my life has changed. The life is changing, and the people around you change when you get in the industry. Like you actually surround yourself with these creative people, with these professionals. And it's just, I don't know, there's nothing else like it. It's a beautiful experience. And now, actually, I had a first last week. The first time I worked with Paramore. That was cool. I worked on a Paramore music video. And now, this week, is gonna be another first. My first time set dressing for $450 a day. $450 for 12 hours. And that's cool. That's the most I made working in the art department. And like it's still happening. Like I'm still creating my firsts. And you can too. Like this is how we grow. We have to step into the unknown and challenge ourselves, but also have faith in ourselves that we're doing the right things. We're actually taking steps towards building our career, towards building our dreams, instead of hoping that it'll happen. So it's a little bit of my story. I hope that it inspires you. Yeah, go experience your firsts.
Thanks for listening today. And if you have a moment, could you please leave me a review? I would love that. And make sure you head over to friendsinfilm.com/join and sign up for my free mini course on what you need to know to find opportunities and start making film and acting work come to you. I'll see you next week.